Welcome to my very first video on the series of answering people's questions on video, just for fun. I found over the years of training dogs and people that a lot of people don't actually read the stuff I give them. So I thought maybe videos would be quicker and easier and more engaging, and it's very popular. Even though I feel like a bit of an idiot talking to a camera, so please excuse me any of my weirdness. But here we go. So the first question I've gotten answered was from Sarah, who has adopted a little pug and had her for 7 months. Thanks for the question, Sarah. So there were quite a lot of things going on in the question. One is that the pug, whose name I don't know, sorry, doesn't like to go out and eat lunch with her owners. She likes to bite the waitresses or attack them or go for them. She doesn't like bicycles. She likes to go for them. She doesn't like legs. She likes to go for those. And she doesn't like to have too much play with her companion dog, and that turns into a bit of a more than a wrestle and a bit more of a fight. I don't know how bad the fights are, so that's going to be a bit of a difficult one to answer, but I will try. And the other thing was separation anxiety. So I'm going to start with the separation anxiety, which is at the moment a little bit of an overused term to blanket a lot of problems that dogs have. So the severity of it is very important. What is she doing when she's being left alone? Is she destroying things? Is she hurting herself? Is she being terribly destructive in the house? Is she trying to get out of the property? Is she trying to dig out of the house? What is the situation? The next thing to do is to look at when it is happening. Is it happening on a Monday when you're going back to work after a whole long process? Or is it happening after you've been at home for a few days and then go back to work? Or is it just completely random? Or is it anytime you go out? Because those also all make a difference as to how to manage it and deal with it. So if it's a very severe separation anxiety case, I would really recommend that you go and find a good behaviorist to help you through that, because that can be quite difficult and often requires a lot of work to get the dog to settle. If it's not too serious, then you could set up a routine where you try and get the dog to be a little bit more tired before you go out. So often this happens when you're going to work, so you don't have time to spend hours running the dog on the treadmill. No, I'm joking. I would never recommend that. But you don't have time to put into spending with the dog in the mornings generally. So a quick way to give her a little bit of activity would be to scatter feed her. So you would take her outside away from her companion, and instead of giving her food in a bowl, you could spread it out on the snuffle mat, or if you've got a clean area of grass where they're not going to use the toilet, you can sprinkle it in the grass and let her seek out each little kibble piece, if she's eating kibble, so that she can actually expend some of her energy using her smelling senses, which is very tiring for dogs. And it's a good exercise because it's totally non-stressful. It's a lot of fun. It gets them thinking. And she might just be able to go like, oh, I'm really tired now. Let me have a snooze while you go out. Instead of going, I'm totally freaked out. You're leaving. The world's going to fall apart. I need to get out of here. So a little bit more information on that would give us a better idea on how to structure a good program to desensitize her to the fear of being left alone and what is actually going on there. The other thing was chasing bikes, which is natural. Dogs like to chase things, so it's really fun for them as well. It triggers a whole lot of excitement and good hormones go surging through the body, and life's great. So that's quite a tricky one to stop because it is fun. But again, you would use a process of desensitization and a little bit more calming behavior plus management. So if it's the kids riding bikes or the staff leaving and coming or people that you're meeting on walks, those all make a difference as to how we would approach desensitizing her to those things and managing them. Obviously, you need to make sure she's always on a very secure lead. And if you do see a cyclist approaching, that you are going to give them as much space as possible, just protecting everybody, including her. If it's kids that are riding their bikes, then perhaps she should just be popped away for a bit while they do it, so she's not activated all the time, and she can do something else during that time. Again, you could do a snuffle mat exercise or a food puzzle, or give her something to munch on, or whatever it is. So you would then want to desensitize her to the trigger. So fast moving things can be quite tricky to desensitize because you're going to really need to slowly build her up to not reacting every time she sees them, and you'd have to work out a whole distance ratio to do that. So again, I would recommend working with a trainer or trainer behaviorist on this, who knows how to do these things and can set it up and can get a willing bicycle person to risk having their ankles munched. The ankle biting, if she's biting with intent of being aggressive, one way of handling it. Again, if she's just biting because she's trying to catch pant legs or boots, then that could be different. So that one I would definitely need a bit more information on before I could give you an idea of a program. But obviously, again, pretty much the same as the bicycle. It's triggers, management, and reteaching her how to behave in those situations. Then we go on to the going out for meals and that. So if you see it from her perspective, she goes to a new place, there's new noises, new smells, new people, whole lot of stimulation. Some of it might be really nerve making for her, quite scary. She might go like, oh, I'm not sure about this. And so that's the one factor. The other factor is the person approaching the table may not be comfortable approaching dogs and may be acting a bit weird or hesitantly, which would make the dog suspicious and go, why is this person acting so weird? Let me bark at them because they're just odd. So there's those two factors, plus a lot of the restaurants and places where it's become very trendy to take your dogs are not really set up for dogs, they're set up for humans. And quite often the dogs are not actually enjoying the experience as much as we like to think they are. So they would rather just be rolling in a bit of cow manure somewhere and smelling stuff and maybe having its little paddle in the stream and not overstimulated by all this noise and these smells and strange people and new dogs and close quarters and chairs scraping. It's a lot. So I would really reconsider whether she's enjoying it. If you're taking the dogs for an outing together and she's finding it like necessary to guard your table, I would go, well, she's not feeling comfortable. So let's find a situation where she is feeling comfortable and work slowly up from there. You might need to go to places that are more open, where you can be more relaxed. You might want to consider getting her a little carrier box that you can collapse and take with you, that you can just pop her into, where she will feel safe. You can just cover it with a blanket so she can look out, but she'll feel like she's in a little den and she'll feel like, I'm not going to get hurt here. And then obviously nobody gets this shark dog coming out from under the table either, which is makes life easier for everybody. So those are the things I would consider about that, because it's obviously something that's making her feel uncomfortable. When it comes to the overexcitement and playing and turning into a fight, I would like to just say that this is a hyperarousal thing and a lack of socialization for whatever reason. So she's not learned how to play. It's not got to do with her wanting to assert her position or be the boss. It's really that when she's in the midst of the game, it's obviously getting more and more excitable and she doesn't know how to go, right, that's it, I'm going to break. So if you watch two very well socialized dogs play, they'll have break times where they'll shake off, they might sneeze at each other, they might walk around each other a bit, they might go do something else, sniff the ground, do a play bow, start again. And sometimes dogs miss out on a crucial socializing phase, where it could be from too early mom removal, it could be from her early life where she didn't go to social classes or had too many social classes, or perhaps she lived with a dog that had very bad skills and so she learned that was how to be. And you will need to reteach her on how to actually learn to moderate her own arousal. And I would just simply, when they're playing and you see it getting too rough, I would just call the dogs and do something else. So you're going to redirect that behavior away from that intensity, give them a break. It does take a bit of management. You'll need to have treats on hand so you can go, okay, come guys, let's go get a biscuit. And then everybody can go and get a biscuit, calm down, defrag, and then they can play again a bit. If it accelerates straight away, you might need to do it several times. If it's causing a real problem where the dogs are not coping with this, then I would again recommend getting somebody in to help you so that you can really monitor what's happening with both dogs, because this can have an effect on both dogs. Lastly, I would like to just cover the fact that she's possibly suffering from a bit of stress. So what happens when dogs are rescued and moved from homes, whatever the situation is, whether it was abusive or just a nice home or whatever, it doesn't really matter because the trauma is the same. So they're uplifted from one place, quite often placed into a foster or a kennel, very often sent to the vet and bombarded with the arsenal of health things, so that, she might have been sterilized, she might have been vaccinated, dewormed, tick and flead, everything at once. So her body's full of toxins, and that depletes the body's biome in the gut. So your microbiome in the gut is vital in creating your hormones for stress control and leveling them out. And when that gets messed up, it's very difficult for the body to regulate. So we mess that up with dogs unintentionally, and then we don't fix it. We don't go and give them probiotics and help them through this. And it's really important. Again, you can always add a calming supplement to their diet. So I have a calming supplement that I really love to use, but I'm not going to name any names. But there are plenty in the world that you can choose from, and they're fairly similar. And sometimes you have to play around with them to see which ones work for your dog. But it is a big help to give them a little bit of a boost to help them through this phase, and definitely check the probiotics in her diet. So you can buy doggy probiotics and add them to her diet. Or you can shift your diet entirely and go whole food and give them yogurt and do that kind of thing, but that's another video all on its own. So I would definitely add probiotics to her diet and definitely get her a calming supplement just to help her ease, because she's obviously battling on several levels to just deal with the stress in her body and the hyperarousal of her nature, possibly, or just because of the stress. So she's just needing a little bit of assistance here with that, possibly engaging her in some confidence building work. You can do classes, you can find stuff on the internet that you can do at home, but it just helps bolster their own belief in themselves. So that sounds very new agey, but it really does work. So just even doing basic marker training with a dog can change their entire brain from being totally stressed to being a little bit less stressed. And doing simple confidence building exercises, movement exercises, standing on things, learning new things, that can change everything so quickly. And it's positive. It's all positive. Don't ever find a trainer who's going to use kind of aversives to deal with any of these problems, because they're going to make it worse. They're going to make the dog more stressed, more insecure, more unhappy, first of all. And second of all, it's 2023 and we don't use aversives in dog training or any animal training. Shouldn't. It is still used a lot, and it's actually quite widely available on the internet too. And there's a lot of people using aversives for training that because they give you a really quick result. Apparently it looks great, but it actually has an enormous amount of spill out, and of course it's sometimes quite cruel, but it's never the way to do it. So you always want to go from the dog's side of what would make them more comfortable, what's going to be the kindest intervention, how do we make their life as stress-free, safe, and as kind as possible. I think I've answered all the questions. I probably haven't, but I don't want to make these videos too long. So if you have any other questions, ask me another question and I will try and do separate videos. I kind of group this all in one because I really think stress is the underlying cause here, but we can most definitely unpack each one if you like. But let me know, and thanks for listening, and thanks again for your question. If anybody else has questions, you can pop me a question. My group on Facebook is the Dog Guru Connect, or you can put a question in the comments and then I'll post the videos here on YouTube, and hopefully I will be able to help some doggies.